This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health or lifestyle changes. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Her podcast, your go-to space for real talk, inspiration, and laughter as we navigate life as a woman. Let's dive in.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. I'm Tracy Mail, your host for today. I am a health empowerment coach supporting women facing Hashimoto's, thyroid, and adrenal overwhelm. Through simple, sustainable, and natural strategies, I help them rebuild their energy, harmonize their hormones, and soothe their nervous system so they can finally feel like themselves again. I'm here with my good friends and co-hosts, Cynthia and Lorraine. Ladies, please say hi and introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Keim. I'm a mindset wellness coach, empowering women to live more authentically through my customized guided system of self-discovery and self-healing. Welcome.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Penner, a menopause health coach, author of the Menopause Map book series, and host of the Menopause Map Minute podcast and YouTube channel. I guide women through the wonderful, sometimes wild world of menopause. My focus is helping women navigate this season of life with confidence through knowledge of what the heck is going on in her body and with her hormones.
Nice. Thank you. We all want to know that.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
absolutely.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, so today we are joined with Tashia Martin, a licensed social worker, author, and healing-centered leadership strategist. She helps leaders and organizations build wellness-rooted systems so people can navigate change with clarity, alignment, and humanity. She's also the creator of the R.O.O.T.E.D framework and the author of New Leaf, an Amazon #1 new release that supports people through life transitions and self-compassion and purpose. Love that. So nice. This episode is for the woman who feels like life is asking a little too much of her right now, and she still has to show up, like we all do, right? So
Yes.
we're talking about how to stay grounded in the middle of grief, stress, and big transitions, and how to honor pain without, letting it define you. So, Tasha, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
I'm really excited to be with you all this evening.
Nice, thanks. All right, so for anyone meeting you for the first time, can you explain what a healing-centered leadership strategist is and what you help people do?
So, a healing-centered leadership strategist helps people lead without abandoning themselves or the people on their teams. And so, my work pretty much sits at the center of leadership, wellness, and systems change. So, I support leaders who care about the results, but also care about the people behind the results and help them understand how their own internal state, their lived experiences, and their unhealed patterns show up in systems and the way that they lead so that we can rebuild those systems and leadership practices that will protect health, identity, and joy while achieving impact.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Man, I really need that. That is so awesome. Okay, so you created the Rooted framework, which is great because we need frameworks when life feels chaotic. Can you explain what Rooted stands for?
So the rooted framework consists of 6 pillars: reclaim wellness, observe
Okay.
systems, own your gifts, tend the collective, evidence and beyond, and design for sustainability. So the framework takes leaders through a process of acknowledging everyone's right to wellness, including their own, right? Because you have to model wellness so that your team knows that they have a right to wellness as well. And then it moves them to a process of understanding the systems and the teams impacting the overall organizational wellness, moving into then the decision-making process, and finally establishing systems that can be sustained over time.
Nice. Okay. It's so cool. Sorry, I'll let you say your piece,
Oh.
Cynthia, but it's very nice that companies are taking that route, no pun intended, but going that way now, right?
Yeah.
And taking care of people's wellness and making that a priority. Love that. Okay, sorry, Cynthia, go
Oh,
with your questions.
no worries, no worries. So, uh, Tashia, as women move through midlife, many of us feel that this deep internal shift we're changing, right? But the world, your friends, your family, coworkers, spouses, they still expect us to show up in the same way as we always have, right? So, how
Mhm.
does your rooted work help women reconnect to who they are now, not who they were 10, 20 years ago?
That's a very beautiful question. And it also is associated with the experience of grief. Because when we are with individuals who expect us to behave a certain way, to show up for them in the way that we did in the past, sometimes those relationships change. And so there's a level of grief that we experience in that process. And so for women who are experiencing similar things, which was a part of my journey as well, I think there's something about hitting 40 that like all of this just starts to happen.
Yeah.
um, you really have to honor that who you are, what you're becoming, what you need is important. And as women, we're always taught from the age of little girls to care for everyone before we care for ourselves. And so we have to first shift our mindset around who's most important or what's most important and setting that priority. And the rooted framework begins with the letter R, reclaiming wellness. And so, what does wellness look like for you as a woman? What does it look like for your sleep, for your internal, for your external? What does that all mean? And then, do you have the support systems? When we're talking about observing systems, it can be the structures, but it can also be the people who we surround ourselves with. Are we surrounding ourselves with individuals who will love and support and nurture us while we're redefining, and refining ourselves?
You know, before I ask my question, I was kind of hoping to get a little background as to how you came across this. I mean, what inspired you to create this framework?
Mhm. So I've been in leadership for a number of years. But I started off, I'm a licensed social worker. I've been licensed since 2012. And so I've done one-on-one counseling with individuals. But then I also went into leadership where I had to manage a team of individuals, support the executive leadership of the organization. And I was able to really see how when folks were well, they showed up, they performed a certain
Yeah.
way. You can kind of get people moving in times when things may seem a little difficult, but it really was rooted in those relationships. But then also during my leadership journey, beginning in 2022, I experienced a series of losses. So I had almost 20 deaths surrounding me between 2022
Mhm.
and 2025. So as a clinician, I knew strategies to support, like I'm really trauma trained and trauma informed. I support
Mhm.
people with vicarious trauma. But when you're going through your own process of grief,
Mhm.
it was psychologically challenging. It was spiritually challenging. There were so many barriers and traumatic experiences that I had from all of those losses at once. And so Rooted Framework came about because I had to figure out, like, how do I still lead in this
Mhm.
organization at the executive table with a team, responsibilities for metrics, as well as taking care of myself and not harming the people who I'm responsible for. So that's kind of how this all came about, and really a culmination of strategies that I know as a trauma-informed practitioner, but then also the strategies and tools that I'm aware of as a leader. So I kind of combined those. And then there was also a spiritual expectation of me. It was pretty much a command, like, you need to develop this. And I was like, okay, obedience. And so it
Right.
really came from a space of obedience through my own healing journey.
Mhm.
And after the age of 40, I'm really learning to be more obedient, and that's been very helpful.
Oh,
Wonderful.
well, first, I'm really sorry, and secondly,
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So,
Absolutely.
speaking of your framework, I wanted to talk about own your own gifts because especially us as women, and as you were saying earlier, we tend to care for others, do for others, and don't really recognize our own gifts. So, I believe, just like you do, that we all are unique and we all have our gifts that we're meant to put out there, make it our purpose. So, from your experience, what do you find helps people move from that part of them that is sensing, do I have something meaningful to offer? to actually trusting in it enough to use it, to share it, to make it their purpose? And how do you support people through that process when that self-doubt or that hesitation shows up?
Nice.
Self-doubt and hesitation are real, especially when the message is consistently that you can't or you shouldn't or someone else should. So a lot of that is external. A lot of the voices that we experience that are negative voices are not our own voices, they're external
Right.
voices. And so one of the early steps that I would encourage women to engage in is writing down what are these messages that are telling them that they can't or that they don't know or that someone else is better, and figure out what was the first time that they heard that message. And then next to that, create a column for all of the opposing experiences that prove those statements wrong.
Hmm.
Nice.
Because we have to shift and adjust the messages that are in our head. We've been bred to believe these things, and we have to untrain our brain to list from listening to those and listening to new messages. So I would say that that's the very first step is to get rid of those old messages because we're walking into something new.
Right. Oh, thank you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I love that, putting the opposite, like proving, because you always hear, put down the thought you're having, but it's never, prove, you've all had experiences that prove that wrong, right? Write
Mhm.
that down. I like that. I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we think about leadership, right? We
Hmm.
we have these criterias or these characteristics of what a traditional leader is, and none of them, they don't necessarily favor women in the traditional sense.
No.
But what we know is that when we look at the research of how women tend to lead, we have less turnover, we have more compassionate workspaces, people are happier and healthier, and so we have to adjust from what we've been trained to believe.
Right. Yep. Love it. Thank you. And I really love how grounded all of this is. And what really stands out about your work is that it's not just theory, it's lived. I love that. You've lived it. You've walked through the grief and the renewal yourself. So, you're very good for you. So I guess my another question that I have is, how do you honor your pain without letting it define you?
So, if I'm being 100% honest, my pain defined me for a full
Yeah.
year.
All
I just
right.
put on a mask so that no one else knew that it was defining me. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times that's what we're doing. But honoring your pain without letting it define you means to recognize that you're in a season, right? We're in a season, but also finding ways to acknowledge your worth. So, back in 2023, dealing with the various deaths and griefs that was around me, as well as leading, I couldn't see the joy and the lightheartedness in my eyes. Like I would smile, but it was performative.
Right.
And so 2023 was the heaviest year. And so it defined my mood. It defined when I got out of bed. It defined my eating habits, right? It also moved me to avoid spaces that I wouldn't infect other people with my sadness and my grief, right? So I
Right.
experienced social anxiety.
Mhm.
Mm.
So I'm not gonna, I do want to acknowledge that there are times when it will define us, but we just have
Mhm.
to continue to talk to ourselves and let ourselves know that we can come out of this. We will come out of this, and it is just a season. So what I found is that I had to find a way to communicate what my needs are to other people. So
Mm.
that's super important is to communicate what your needs are. Um, and you want to make sure that you're not staying in that space.
Right.
So being transparent with my team was super helpful for me. I had already developed a relationship with them. I knew what their strengths are. They knew what my strengths are. And so I was able to say, look, my processing is much slower. Trauma in the brain is real. I've never had mommy brain before, but I've had COVID brain. I've had trauma brain. And when I say the processing, you can't remember simple words that you knew your entire
Yep.
life. It's so real. And so just being honest with folks and saying, look, this is where I am, and I really need you to step up and step in, and I trust you. If you make mistakes, fine. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes letting go of that control. And also by creating rituals that reminded me of my own inner beauty and my outer beauty, because it was hard for me to look in the mirror in the morning to get ready. So I had to get more comfortable with like giving myself pep talks, but not just, girl, you got this. It was, I know who you are underneath this pain. I know who you are beneath this grief. This is a season you can do this. And even like just pouring, bawling tears while I'm saying this, I had to create the ritual to make sure that I'm reminding myself that deep down under all of this rubble is a beautiful being who I honor, who I love, and who will resurface once this is over.
Oh, so
Beautiful.
nice. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well said.
I
Well
just wanted
said.
to
I love
interject
that.
here.
Yeah.
Um, how I lost my mom last year, and
Hmm.
there wasn't that that ability to be able to look at like you're saying, look in the mirror where you're putting on the grief mask and you can't remember words, you can't function. But where did you grab that where you could say, underneath this grief, you are capable, underneath this? Like, was that from your training and your leadership? Was that from being a social worker? Was that something that was ingrained in you from childhood? Like, how did you grab that and pull it out through the grief? Like, how were you able to hold on to that? Because that was
So,
amazing. Like listening to you talk, I just want to give you a hug and a high five at the
Yeah.
same time.
I'll
Yeah,
take both.
exactly. Exactly.
I'll take both.
Yeah.
But the reality is I knew it, but I didn't believe it. Like it was like I know she's in there,
Yeah.
but I cannot connect with her. So in social work or in mental health in the mental health field, there's a term called dissociation. I
Mhm.
completely was like looking, I was so disconnected. I did not connect with who was inside.
Mm.
Um, but there was just something about it, just I just knew she was in there. And I wouldn't say that it came from when I was a kid. I think that because of my awareness that this was just a moment, I was able to call upon it and say she's there. And plus, I'm not 20, I'm 40. So I've had more
Mhm.
experience and time with myself. If I was in my 20s, it would have been a lot harder to do that. So I think it was just spending a little bit more time. I had been spending more time developing myself and who I wanted to be. Um, and so I think that because that was newer for me or more recent, I was able to capture it and hold on a little bit. But I would go into therapy with my therapist and I would say, I don't know where she is. I know she's in there. I cannot feel her. Like spiritually, I could not
Oh.
feel her.
Mhm.
So, it's very sad, but it was just like I have to get back to her and I will get back to her. But honestly, I could not connect with that woman. It felt like I was two different people.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like you said too, with the that self-awareness, right? When you
Hmm.
know, like you know yourself and you know I was a happy, fun, loving, and now I can't stop crying. I'm miserable. I
Yeah.
hate people,
Yeah.
but that's not me. This is the season I'm in, right? I absolutely I can see that. I know I've felt it myself and never put the words to it. I loved how you put those words to it, but yeah, that's very, very nice.
Yeah, and I
All
think
right.
we all go through it.
Absolutely.
It's a shocker when you do it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how you mentioned also that you can't stay there. You had
Hmm.
mentioned that you just can't stay in the pain, you just can't stay in the rubble.
Right. No,
And
right?
so I love that you kept trying to find yourself. You kept trying to rise above the pain. You kept trying to say, I know there's more. I know there's something else.
Yeah.
So we all have our own time limits, but just the fact that you know there's another time in the future is what keeps us going and takes us out of the pain and shows us our resilience. So thank you. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. So if someone is leading a team and they're
Mhm.
already extremely overwhelmed, what is the first rooted step that they can take this week to improve things?
So one of the things that folks can do this week is one, look at your boundaries. Are there any boundaries that you're avoiding? Because you may have your door that is a revolving, you have an open door policy, it's revolving, but are those practices distracting, right?
Yeah.
Are you observing your systems? Identify one workflow or meeting or communication norm that is creating unnecessary stress and adjust it. Another thing that someone can do is to ask their team what work is already giving you energy, and task people to do that. They're more likely to get it done. They're more likely to be more productive, and it's going to take some weight off of you. And so, I would say start there, but
Nice.
definitely looking at your
The
boundaries.
boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, boundaries are super important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because they never stop knocking. Like,
They do
holy.
not. They
No.
don't.
Okay. Thank you for that. Lorraine?
Well, I did have a question
Yes.
about women who aren't leading organizations,
Mhm,
but they consider themselves leaders. You know, they have their
mhm,
families that they're leading, they might have other work roles, and we all have like money worries and emotional responsibility, and so we are leaders in our own right in a different way. So for those women, this framework may seem overwhelming. You know, how do I do
mhm.
this? You know, this 12-step program, so to speak, and everything. So for them, is there one or two priorities in your framework? I mean, does it start at the top, or like when women are saying, I need something now, I need one or
Mhm.
two steps that I can really put all of my focus and energy in to get myself in a different place? What would you suggest?
So I would say for the woman who is a leader, I'm thinking moms, just like you named, right?
Yeah.
Moms lead. Ooh, we lead, we care. And I often look at like my friends, specific more so my family, and I'll say, give that to one of the kids, give that to your spouse. Why are you doing it? I literally went to visit my cousin in California, and his wife gets up and she moves and she does everything. I say, wait, if you jump to do everything for everyone, what happens when you're sick? No one knows how to take care of you. And so for the woman who is a leader, through motherhood, through friendship, I would say start asking people to do things for you.
Hmm.
I saw something somewhere that said women need to start being the CEOs of our own lives. A CEO is always asking for help. Why do we think we don't need help?
Yeah.
Mm,
Right?
yep.
So,
Yep.
asking for help, and that can be giving the children chores
Hmm.
throughout the day, throughout the week. I pay for convenience, and I know everyone does not have that ability. And so I do pick and choose what I can afford to make my life a little bit more convenient. And so I also encourage women to do that. That could be purchasing a countertop dishwasher so that you do not have to wash the dishes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That could potentially be dropping your clothes off to the wash and go so that you do not have to wash the laundry. But it can also be assigning your children tasks. It could be, having dinner with a girlfriend so that, she's cooking or someone else is doing it and you're kind of just showing up and relaxing. It could also be a girls' night, where you all are just coming up with your own strategies for how you want to live your year out, what differences you want to make, and get that support to think differently around what is your responsibility on your own and what your responsibilities can be within a community. So definitely finding your community and your resources and levels of support, I think is like the most important couple steps. And I will give you something that I love to do, which is putting flowers and smelly, really nice smelling oils into my bath. What? The self-care
Yep.
and the
Yes.
aromatherapy that's in that?
Yep.
That's something that women we can claim. And, sometimes bath time with the locked door is the only time we get, but that's the time that we can take advantage of too.
Nice.
Yes, so important to find that those moments where you
Hmm.
can, I call it headspace. Those moments where I gather headspace and smelling nice, the better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, a lot of women in midlife are carrying invisible weight, right? You've got age, I mean, you're a little younger than us, but we've got aging parents or loss, changing marriages, shifting careers, and then you've got menopause layered on top of all of that. So, from your perspective, how does chronic stress or unprocessed grief quietly disconnect women from themselves? And how does Rooted help bring them back into alignment?
So I think there are some things that Rudy can do. I also think that there are other things that we need to connect with doctors for. Hormones are extremely impactful. I was just talking to one of my good friends about like the thyroid, and how the thyroid, when you go to the regular doctor, they're like, "Oh, you're within this range. Life is great."
Ah,
And you're
Yeah.
looking at yourself like, you're looking at the doctor and you're saying, "I know that there is
yeah.
something wrong."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sing
We
it,
all
sister.
have.
Um,
You're singing to the choir here because we've all
Yep.
had thyroid things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
yes. I mean, I've
Yep.
had a scan, I've had an ultrasound so many times and everything comes back normal. I'm like, there's something wrong with your machine. Something's
Yep.
happening with my body.
Yeah.
So I just want to make that clear that there are some things that, Ruta can support with, but there are other things that we do need medical support with. Um, and when we're thinking about how stress and grief can really overwhelm our bodies, um, going with the R, going with reclaiming wellness. We have a right to be healthy and to be well. And I would say creating those rituals that you stick to, um, bathing yourself and blessing yourself, whether it's just thanking your brain for processing and getting you through, thanking your brain for remembering your mom's name, thanking your brain and thanking your heart, right? Thanking your heart and your arms for being open to receiving and giving love. Just a spirit of gratitude can really help to sustain us. And so, one of the things that I like to do and that I encourage women to do is to, as you're washing your hair, as you're washing every part of your body, to just express the level of gratitude for what that body part had to do to get you here and to get you over the hump of whatever pain that you're experiencing. I even thank my feet and bless my feet for pivoting and or keeping me on the right track.
Yep.
So,
Nice.
just that level of honor and gratitude. And my mom is, I love my mom. And I joke, I'm a millennial, so sorry, but I joke and I say, it's hard raising your parents. And so I know you all have experienced that too. But we have this joke because I'm like, Mom, I told you what to do. You're not listening to me. But I know she still loves her independence. She's still super independent. Um, but just being grateful that we have the relationship that we do, and it also encouraging her to do some of the strategies that I'm doing as well, which is honoring myself.
Awesome.
Nice. So important. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I want to shift into your book for a moment because I
Okay.
think so many women feel that they're in a transition, even if it doesn't look obvious on the outside. So,
Mhm.
how does New Leaf support people in navigating change while still honoring themselves instead of pushing through and pretending, oh, I'm fine?
So I want to start by saying that 2026. So I'm very interested in astrology and numerology.
Yeah, me too.
Love, love, love them.
Me too.
So 2026 is considered a 1 year in numerology. And with
Mm,
this, a 1 year is a cycle associated with newness, new beginnings, independence, leadership, and self-discovery. So this is like prime time to figure out who you are or who you're becoming.
yeah.
And so it also invites us to fresh start and it realigns us with who we truly are. A lot of times we operate out of alignment with our truest selves, and this is really a year to do that. And so New Leaf supports with that process. So the journal is really it wraps the process of navigating change with tools that are used in trauma-informed spaces and healing-centered spaces. And so as the writer is journeying through the contemplation stage into execution, they're supported with techniques that are body-based, in order to help release tension and regulate their nervous systems. Their grounding and sensory awareness activities to help reduce anxiety and overwhelm, and there's also rituals that support both release and intention setting around the shift that's taking place. So the journal also helps to restore internal balance with our body's energy centers. So those changes can feel like they're embodied rather than rushed or forced. And so it's a 52-week journal that folks can kind
Nice.
of go through. You can start from the beginning, you can start in the middle, you can start in a chapter called Ether because they're set around the 5 elements. You can start in a chapter of Ether if you really want to focus on the grief or loss of a loved one or the change that's really happening for you.
Very cool. All right. So,
Oh, I just want to
um,
interject one thing,
yeah, yeah,
Tracy.
of course.
Just for you, Tashia. Did you
Yeah.
also know that this is a year of the fire horse?
No.
So
What
I'm
does
going to
that
read this to
mean?
you. Yeah.
Okay, please do. I'm
My
excited.
yoga instructor taught me this. So the fire
Okay.
horse emerges as an ancestral archetype that awakens when planetary cycles enter a point of no return. Her strength is not chaotic, it is purifying. He advances engulfed in flames because his mission is not to preserve the old, but to consume what no longer sustains life. The fiery horse.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's so much alignment. This is the year.
It is the year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Love
very
that.
Thank you for
exciting
sharing it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Um, is there a prompt
I know.
in your book that consistently opens something up for people?
Oh my goodness. It really depends on where you want to start.
Okay.
So, beginning and awakening, I would say if you're trying to figure out where you're starting, the prompt for you would be centered around what are your gifts? What is it that you're
Mm,
trying to change? What are you ready to change? Now, when we go into air, which is focused on thinking, because air is associated with our thought patterns,
mhm,
the prompt there that I think is very powerful is processing what are the thoughts that you're experiencing that are blocking you
mm.
from moving forward, and where did they begin? So
Yeah. Yes.
each chapter that's associated with an element has a very unique prompt that I think will really get folks started.
Oh.
And so it really depends on where you want to start. And even if it's your emotions, it's how are you processing anger or whatever the emotion is at the time? How are you processing this? And what were the messages or behaviors that you learned growing up that is impacting how you're feeling in this moment? So it really depends on the
Ah.
chapter.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Gonna have to get that. This sounds so interesting. Okay.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
Tashia, midlife can feel like standing between chapters, right? So the old version of us doesn't quite fit anymore, but the next version isn't fully clear yet. So how does New Leaf help women sit in that kind of in between space without rushing to fix themselves or move too quickly?
Mm,
So I think New Leaf provides a lot of space for self-compassion. It's very intentional to, at the end of every single chapter, there's a space of reflection about where you've come from the beginning of the chapter to now, big or small changes, what you're proud of, what you want to hold on to. And so just being a cheerleader for yourself and acknowledging any small step, even if it was just, I wrote, excuse me, I wrote this week, or I engaged in a strategy this week that helped me. Just those little acknowledgments so that you can start to build momentum around what's really working for you.
Hmm.
good.
Nice.
Very interesting.
Well,
Right?
speaking of the things that come up for people that Tracy was talking about, I was curious for people who are actually working the book that they might find themselves having a lot of discomfort, a lot of resistance. They might feel disconnected, as you mentioned earlier, even numb, and some of these things might be, boiling up. So, are there things in the New Leaf book on a weekly basis that kind of helps people, that encourages them to stay with it, to stay engaged with the process, to make them feel supported rather than all of a sudden being overwhelmed by all of these new feelings they're having, these new thoughts, these new behaviors they're trying to institute, and when that uneasiness shows up for them.
So early on in the awakening chapter, which is chapter one, the journalers are asked to write down who could be a part of their support system, whether it's a friend, a family member, and if they cannot identify someone, that they look up a therapist. It's super important that you don't feel like you have to do this alone, or you have someone to support you if you do if you do become depressed or extremely overwhelmed to a point of crisis. So that's happened early on, but each chapter, each week, there are affirmations that the writers are encouraged to look in the mirror on a daily basis and repeat the affirmations to themselves. There are symbols that ground them in the element that the chapter is connected to. And then there are healing techniques. So there are over 100 different healing strategies, whether it's rocking back and
Oh,
forth,
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if anyone has been to like a real countryside where you have the wraparound porches, where you have the rocking chair, but
Yeah.
there are different techniques that help you to move and sway and self-soothe. So
Mm,
every single week presents new prompts, new strategies that will help to soothe the individual so that they can always go back to it. And there's a reflection on how they felt engaging with that technique. So hopefully that the writers will utilize the strategies that are there. There's even a glossary of techniques if there's like the urgency to just let me find something different because this strategy did not work. So
Right.
there's body-based techniques, there's breathing exercises. And so it was very important for me to put in strategies that will help to soothe the nervous system, which will support with responding to that space of disconnection and feeling stuck or just really almost feeling in crisis. Yeah.
mhm,
Well, I love that. I love that
mhm,
you set them up before they get started with some kind of support system, someone they
mhm,
can go through it with, or talk to it about, or confide in with what
Mhm.
they're going through. And it's always a great idea to have people actually be able to look in the mirror when they are going through things like this, because one thing that we do as women is we tend to shy away from our own reflection. We tend to, especially when we're carrying shame, or we're carrying other kinds of, resistant feelings towards ourselves. It's some women can have difficulty just looking at themselves and
mhm.
feeling love, feeling care, feeling that instead of this is wrong with my face, this is what's wrong with my body. We do that way too much. So I love the mirror idea. It is a wonderful way to get people used to falling in love with themselves and having that compassion and that empathy. So thank you for that.
Very
Perfectly
nice.
said.
Yeah,
Fall back
very
in love
nice.
with yourself. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, yes.
absolutely. I was wondering when you were speaking about that. I think if you're going through this horrible time, you say get a therapist, have a buddy, whatever, but sometimes it's just I think it's okay just to cry, right? We try to stop, like, oh, I'm crying, I'm sad, I shouldn't cry, but if you just let it out, my
Yeah.
God, you're just like you come out the other side, like, oh, I just needed to cry. Stop holding it
And it has to
in.
be a big
Big,
ugly
just
cry,
bawl
Tracy.
your eyes
A-
out, right?
yes,
Yeah, snot
I
everywhere. It
believe
doesn't
in it.
matter.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
believe in a big ugly cry. And then
Yeah,
sometimes if you're crying in the mirror, you start laughing at yourself and how
yeah.
crazy you look.
Like,
Like, oh
Jesus,
my gosh, this is what I
Yeah.
look like.
what are you doing?
Now you're having a laugh therapy session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Don't be afraid to ugly cry. That's the moral
In
of
the
today's
mirror.
story in
Yeah,
the
really
mirror.
good.
Okay. Right on. Okay. Okay. So I want to make this all super practical. All right. So because someone listening right now is probably thinking, I love this, but what do I do today? What are practical techniques people can use to honor their healing journey, especially when they're exhausted, overwhelmed, and life keeps coming at them nonstop?
I think we named a couple of them, but
Yeah.
I will always go back to taking that shower and
Nice.
blessing your
Okay.
body.
Nice.
That's the most powerful thing. And
Mhm.
there's a woman in the United Kingdom who offers a virtual yoga class,
Mm,
and she introduced me to the practice of like reaching up and reaching out and receiving the love from no one's physically standing around me, but I received the love from my ancestors. I received the love from my elders. I reached back and I received the love from every place. And so doing that, it just reminds you that you are not alone. Even when you are ugly crying by yourself, you are not alone. There is someone
no.
who really cares about you, who is
Yeah.
wishing you well, even if they have not said it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the
Mm.
practice of gratitude, having a gratitude jar is also another technique that I
Mm.
like to use. And that's just writing down what is one thing that went well today, even if it's I got out of bed, even if
Right.
it's, I took a shower, right? There, sometimes that is the best you can do for that day. And
Yeah.
so creating a gratitude jar and looking at pulling out what you appreciated or what you accomplished within that week can just reset us
Yeah.
to a point of like, not everything is terrible. Some things are going well, even if it's the tiny things.
Wow, I really like that. Never heard of that. That's good. Gratitude jar. Nice. So what
Yeah.
about a woman who feels behind in her healing? What would you say to her?
You're not behind.
No.
You're not behind.
That's
Um,
right.
you're not behind. What I will say is that as women, we carry the traumas of the generations before us, the women who came before us.
Mhm.
And so, and we also pass down the trauma to
Our
our
kids.
daughters and the generations to follow. And so, in our own healing journey, we have the power to heal our bloodline, bloodline up, bloodline down. We have that power. And so, and that also means that we hold the trauma. And so, it can be very compounded. And so, what we're carrying may not simply be our own pain
Right, right.
that we're experiencing. It can also be the pain of our grandmothers, right?
Mhm.
My grandmother did not have an easy life. She's still here, but she did
Mm.
not have an easy life. And so I know that her pain, she's passed that down to my mother, and my mother passed it down to me. And so that shows up in my own behavior and how I honor or don't honor myself. And so healing that for me and becoming a model for the other women in my family can heal generations. And
Mm.
so for the woman who feels like she's behind, you're not behind,
No.
but your healing will heal others. And so demonstrate self-compassion, give yourself those pep talks, create small rituals for yourself, because you will heal. You have the power to heal yourself and you will heal, and you will be an example of how to heal for others. And on the other side of your healing is going to be something so amazing that you did not anticipate. But once it
Yeah.
is here, you're going to be like, oh, I
Yeah.
see why. I'm ready for it.
Yep.
Okay. We're like,
Nice.
butterflies just continuously evolving.
That's right. Oh.
I really liked the way you said that. And I was going to ask the question here about when you feel your energy is so drained, you know, what is a rooted, aligned practice that a woman could do that is gentle so it doesn't feel like another to-do list? But the
Hmm.
way you just worded your response there,
Mhm.
I think that was incredibly beautiful because you said you're healing the line up and the line down.
Mhm.
So much of even the word around it, like self-care, like what when you go into gratitude and your focus comes, and I'm not saying women shouldn't, I'm not saying self-care is, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the focus is when your focus is on yourself and it flows out to other people, it stops being a to-do list and it starts being something so much more beautiful because I mean there is a verse, it's more blessed to give than to receive, because when your focus comes off of the blame and the shame and the I did this wrong, I didn't do this right, all the way down, then maybe life becomes a to-do list. But instead, if you're looking at it as a powerful healing up and healing down, instead of being to-do list, it becomes this beautiful honor to find healing. Would you agree with
Hmm.
that?
I totally agree with that. And I also think that we have a right as women to withhold our energy.
Mm.
The world demands a lot of us in our energy, and sometimes rest. I didn't mention rest. Rest is healing. Rest is revolutionary.
Yeah.
And so when we choose to withhold our energy, that means showing up and being silent. There are so many times when women, we warn people like, please don't, that's not going to make sense, or that's going to actually backfire. And people don't listen to us, and we still continue to give guidance. Just stop talking. We're not stopping our communication because um, we feel unheard or we feel like we don't have, like our voice doesn't matter. We're withholding our voice because we're preserving our energy that's associated with that
Mm.
voice. Our voice, the words that we say are connected to our heart, is connected to our mind, is connected to so many parts of our body that sometimes we just need to sit in silence and say, okay, let people do what they will. And so I've shown up to meetings and I've sat silently and people have looked at me and said, Tashia, so what do you think? And I said, oh no, I don't have any thoughts right now. I'll speak when I have one. I have a million thoughts, but I'm not going to speak them because you're not listening. So I'm going to preserve my voice. And a lot of times, and that is definitely a strategy. There's actually, have you ever heard of a talk fast? So
Oh,
a talk
nice.
fast, right?
I
It's
get
like
I get where you're going. Yeah.
you get where we're going. So we fast from eating. Some
Yeah.
folks fast from eating. I struggle with that, but Some
We
people
all do.
can fast from eating, but you can also fast from speaking. And there's a level of renewal that comes with that because you have to operate so many different parts of your body to communicate. You have to think about what you're going to say. You have to position it so that the person can receive it well. You have to one, two, three, four, five, six, all 10 things before you even get the words out. And then you have to respond or receive whatever's going to be said back to you. So we have the right to engage in a talk fast. And so I encourage that and I practice it from time to time.
Okay. I'm going to stop now. It's going to be a very quiet podcast.
We're going to have a
We're all
talk
listening
fast.
to you. Yeah. You don't need to withhold your energy. This is safe.
Not
Uh,
here. Well, I wanted to add what you were saying earlier. You were talking about our ancestors and the trauma that we passed down and everything. And I wanted to add that we come from a line of such strong women. They had it like we just have no idea what they went through. And in order for us to be here today, they had to have survived. We have warriors. We have women that are so strong, that are so capable, that have moved things. We have so many women in history that just do not get the credit for their intelligence and their inventions and everything. And so I wanted to add that we have both of those. We have the trauma and the pain and the torture and the suffering, but we also have the strength and the wisdom and the resilience and the warrior in us all. And so I appreciate you bringing that beautiful ancestral story in because we forget to honor those before us, and not even just in our own line, but women in general. And so I just love that. And I wanted to mention it. A lot of what I was going to say has kind of been answered, but I did want to talk a little bit about self-care. There are so many phrases that we are using, like mindfulness and self care, and they're getting overused. And a lot of women, it's kind of taken the magic out of the process. And so when women are like alone, that can be difficult for some women. And is there another way for us to identify? Well, obviously, our doing self care, we are practicing self care, but is there another way for us to identify that alone time and the meaningfulness that it has for us to really look in and really learn to be compassionate with ourselves so that we can actually enjoy and reflect and learn from ourselves?
So I love personal, like going on dates with myself, having flowers sent to myself,
oh,
right? Send
Right.
yourself some flowers,
yeah.
or or even go to a garden. We have garden sculptures in New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
Mm,
And just going to sit outside and being with nature. Nature will always support you. So
Absolutely.
sitting with a tree. I'm not a tree hugger, but I do sit under trees
Yeah.
right,
and I
right.
talk to them. I will talk to the
Yeah.
tree and let the bugs kind of crawl on me and just receive the energy of nature, sitting
Mhm.
out in the sun. Those things are just like allowing the wind to blow on your skin and just
Oh, love
feeling
that.
it. And so to your question, I think about I think about the sensations of that we experience with our body, our five senses,
Mhm.
and just feeling what the textures are of different things around us, wearing something soft and just feeling, what does this feel like? Oh, I like the way this feels on my skin.
Mm.
Finding different colors and changing your curtains colors. Amazing. I love changing my curtain colors, right? So just beautifying your space, beautifying your
Yes.
space,
Yeah.
and allowing your space to shift with your mood. So you may feel yellow, or you may be in need of yellow. Surround your space in yellow. You may need something a little bit deeper, like navy, something more calming. You may need a pick me up. So changing your colors to support your mood and keeping yourself busy. I bought a lot of plants. I have a plant that is about 4 feet tall. And so even gardening in your home, putting your hands in the dirt can really relax your mind and distract you from being alone. But to the point of being alone specifically, our body ages much faster when we are alone. And so finding community is super important. I don't think that there's anything that can really replace that. And so that may be you volunteering to feel how important you are to the community when you're giving back. But if you feel like you're over giving, then joining a community where you can just sit and learn from them.
Mm.
Going to the Barnes and Noble or a local bookstore, a local cafe, just to kind of people watch and see people come around and listen to the conversations and start to join the conversations. So I sometimes I find it easier to talk to strangers than the people I know.
Yeah. Oh,
And so there's, I mean, so you doing things like that so you don't feel alone. Sometimes it is just going in public spaces too.
I love that. I love
yeah.
connecting with nature and even our senses, because that is so important for that mind body connection that we so desperately need. And the fact that you don't have to be alone to be alone.
Right.
As you said, you
Yeah.
can be in public places, you can be around others, but you can have that personal space and that silence you were talking about earlier to just kind of recharge yourself and just kind of you know, marinate in your own ownness. you know,
No,
so thank you for that.
nice, nice. I'm gonna brag about my nature. Yes, we have,
Yeah.
yes, we live in the middle of a bush. So we have 100 acres of just trees and bush, and we have 9 deer now. It started off with
Oh,
two.
Oh,
wow.
Now we have 9 deer that come every morning and every evening, and we feed them. So that's my morning thing. I go out, they stand, they look at you in the window, like, come on. I go, okay. They're so cute. They're all furry now because it's so cold out. Anyway,
oh,
that was that is not that's you
yeah,
can't there's nothing that can replace that. I just
correct.
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
yeah.
Not at
Yeah.
all.
Okay, all right. Okay, so before we wrap up, if there was one message that you want every woman listening to remember, especially the woman who feels like she's in a messy middle of grief, change, or burnout, what would that be, Tasha?
For the woman who feels like she is in messy grief,
Yeah.
I would say honor yourself, honor your feelings. Every single feeling you experience is real. Don't minimize where you are, but honor where you are, and honor that every emotion that you have and feeling that you have is real. The grief process is not linear. So there are times when you feel up, there are times when you feel down. And there are times when, you're operating as if everything is normal. There will be other times when you feel like the world is crashing. All of that is your experience. It is true. It is real. Honor it. And it is okay. And you will come out of it. You will overcome it. And I also want to just send healing prayers, and pray
Nice.
for your angels in human form to surround you in your time of need, even when you don't reach out to ask.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Very
Thank
nice. Yeah. So, so nice.
you.
Great. Thanks so much for that. Um, Now, for everyone listening, here is this week's challenge. Okay. For the next 7 days, simply write one sentence when you start your day, which goes exactly with what she just said. Today, I'm honoring myself by fill in the blank. Okay. And that's it. Just one sentence, no pressure. Okay. All right. So, Tasha, for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, I need more of this. I'm thinking that. Um, where can they find you? And can you share anything you have available right now, like your book, the journal, your offers, resources, or ways to work with you? How can they find you?
So I can be found on Instagram at Restoring Legacy. I do share inspiring messages there. You can also find my website, restoringlegacy.consulting, where you can also find the book. And there's actually going to be a sale on the book coming soon. So if you check in a couple weeks, you'll see that there. And if you sign up to be a part of the Restoring Legacy community, you'll also get some free resources. So
Oh, nice.
restoringlegacy.consulting and Restoring Legacy on Instagram.
Beautiful. Ah, so exciting. All right. Thank you so much for that. We'll put all that in our notes here at the end. And honestly, I just want to pause here because I think this conversation is exactly what so many women need right now. We live in a world that teaches us to push through, stay productive, and keep it together, and to be strong no matter what's happening inside. So, but what I love about what you shared today is that healing isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about being honest with what you're carrying and still choosing to come back to yourself. So, and I want to say this clearly, if you're listening and you've been going through something hard, whether that's grief, stress, health issues, or just feeling emotionally tired, you're not falling behind, right? You're not falling behind. You're not failing. You're being human. All right.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fighting what you feel and start meeting yourself with compassion. So, good.
Beautifully said, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as we wrap up, I just wanted to take a moment to speak to the woman listening who feels like she's holding a lot right now. Maybe you're in a season of change that no one else can see. Maybe your body feels different. Your energy isn't what it used to be, or your heart is quietly grieving things you were never expected to lose. What I love so much about today's conversation is a reminder that healing doesn't require you to rush, perform, or become someone new overnight. It asks you to stay rooted in who you are right now. Midlife has a way of peeling things back. It asks us to reassess, to listen more closely, and to honor what our bodies, emotions, and lives are telling us. Sometimes that includes hormonal shifts. Sometimes it includes grief, burnout, or simply realizing that the old ways of pushing through no longer work. So, what we heard today is an invitation to meet ourselves with compassion, to stay grounded when life feels unsteady, and to trust that honoring ourselves, even in small ways, is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be finished with healing. You're allowed to be exactly where you are and still be moving forward. And if today's conversation gave you permission to slow down just a little, to breathe a little deeper, or to treat yourself with more kindness, then it did exactly what it was meant to do.
Nice. Well said.
Nice. And I just wanted to add that healing is a very personal process. Each of us brings our own challenges, experience, perspectives, and because of that, healing is not a task to complete. It becomes a lifelong priority that evolves as we do. What matters is taking one step at a time and learning to relate to ourselves with more care along the way. I believe that forgiveness and gratitude can soften the process. They do not remove the work, but they can make the path feel less heavy and a little bit lighter. And I think it's worth remembering that there is only one you, and this life is the only one we have. Being intentional about how you show up for yourself truly matters. I want to thank Tashia for sharing her insights and her wisdom today and for the work that she's doing to make healing more accessible and practical for so many people. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you,
I
Tashia.
agree 100%. It's been so nice. And we all know now that we can ugly cry in the mirror. It's okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That should have been our challenge.
that's right.
Cry until you laugh.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, as always, all of today's guests' details, including contact information, social links, and any mentioned offers or resources, can be found in the show notes, along with the ways to connect with us as well. Tashia, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing this part of your story. your work, and with so much heart. It was just such a great conversation. I love this. This is so powerful, grounding, and exactly what people need. And we're so grateful for you. You're going in my grateful bin. Okay.
The grateful jar.
A
Thank
grateful
you.
jar. Yeah.
Same, yes.
Okay. And friends, if you enjoyed today's conversation and you want more support, more real conversations like this, and practical tools you can actually use, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. You may just change their life. So, and if there's something you're struggling with or curious about, email us your topic requests at happyhealthyherpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, that's that for today. So remember, in a world where you can be anything, be happy, be healthy, and be kind.
Thanks for tuning in to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with anyone you think would benefit from the topics we're discussing. We'd love to hear from you. DM us with your thoughts, comments, or ideas for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the links in our bio if you'd like to connect with any of us or learn more about what we do. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.